Well, it's a West London VR time trial preview on the Black Park circuit. This is the start line, Objet d'Art for sale. I don't know how many cyclists will pick that up and take it with them. It doesn't look very aerodynamic, does it? But anyway, as we go past the Objet d'Art on sale outside that house, mushroom-shaped lights for your garden, we embark upon the course. Now, this is an official British time trial course, and it's slightly odd in the sense that it's one large lap and then about a third of the lap repeats itself. So there's a couple of sections that you're going to be doing twice, including this one. So you will come back past the start line and go around and do a small loop and finish at the just past. Well, in fact, the finish is a little bit further up. So we will actually be coming along here, as I say, twice, 3 times actually. Once on the first lap, once on the second lap, and then up to the finishing line, which I'll show you where that is in a minute. We're going to pass it very, very shortly. Now, the course is particularly flat. It's called the Black Park course. Black Park is not quite where we are now. It's a little bit further up, but as you can imagine, it's a wooded park. It's got a sort of artificial lake in the middle of it, which kind of looks natural, but is artificial, and it probably doubles up as a reservoir to a degree, I would imagine. You may not realise it, but you will have seen Black Park many times before, or the interior of it, because it is used for filming a hell of a lot, because the Pinewood Studios are just the other side of Black Park, and we should be passing those shortly. So basically they only have to go outside the lot into the woods to do woodland scenes. So it's something you've probably seen unwittingly very often, I should say. A lot of big movies have been made at Pinewood over the year, not least all the James Bond movies, and quite a few Hollywood blockbusters made there too. In fact, most of the major studios, not all, but quite a few of them have permanent offices at the studios these days, rather than just renting out the lots when they want to make a film. So anyway, we shall see Pinewood Studios very, very shortly, but Black Park is the name of the course. The start where we started, just the other side of the road, there is a pub there where when the actual time trials, the IRL ones, the in real life ones. So this is the finish basically here, where you saw that little flash. That's just to mark where the finish is. With that left-hand turn there, when we come round again, we'll go up that left-hand turn and do a small loop back. This is the entrance to Black Park. You can see the gates there, and it's shut at the moment, just before it opened. It's a very popular place. It will be packed. There's a big car park there, and families will all go in and sort of have picnics and walk around the lake and into the woods. As I say, it's a very popular place to go for a weekend stroll, picnic or whatever. I don't know if you can still swim in the lake. There was a place reserved for swimming in the lake. I don't know whether modern health and safety rules have changed all of that, but there it is. So, as I say, this is quite a flat course. There are some inclines. I say inclines, I mean they're very steady, but most British time trial courses are really flat. They're designed for speed. Of course, Cycling Time Trials, the governing body for time trials in the UK, apart from British Cycling, of course, they have a separate category for hill climbs. So whilst the normal time trials will tend to be on flat courses like this, mark my words, there are some steep hill climbs in their official repertoire of courses. As I say, this is an official course, and we're replicating it on Wahoo RGT, just riding it here for your pleasure, so you can understand what it looks like in real life. I have to say, it's basically a road with trees at the side, which is what you're going to get on Wahoo RGT with their stock scenery, so it's not going to look entirely different. We've got far more potholes, and you can see that long streak where the scar where the road's been dug up to put some wires in or something, or some pipes. However, all that changes here as we come out of Black Park. Still on our left. All these trees on the left are Black Park. On the right, if you're from the area, you will know that's Langley Park. So it's a very similar park, but doesn't have a lake. That's the only difference. So these are very popular places to come. There's a little cafe over in Langley Park, which some cyclists use. I'm just not saying there's not a cafe in Black Park, but I think it would just be too crowded with people and families going out for a picnic and whatever to bother going in. So this is the main road between Slough and Uxbridge. We're heading towards Uxbridge. It's called the Uxbridge Road because it comes out of Slough. Always amuses me because you go across a roundabout shortly. We'll be turning left, but if you live in the village in between the two, Ivor Heath, it's interesting that the road to Slough is called the Uxbridge Road and the road to Uxbridge is called the Slough Road. And of course that's because they're named from where they start. So the Slough people going to Uxbridge would take the Uxbridge Road, and the Uxbridge people going to Slough would take the Slough Road. But the poor old people in Ivor Heath, if you look at something that says Slough Road, you'll end up in Uxbridge. Now this bit of dual carriageway is also this road from Slough to Ivor Heath, then veers round. It's the A412, and in fact was prior to the I suppose London's equivalent of the Peripherique, although it's further out, isn't it? But the motorway that circles London, the M25, before it was built, this was the road that you used to orbit London in the north. It was called the North Orbital Road, and you would have seen a lot more traffic on this road, believe it or not, in the 1970s than you would by the end of the 1980s, when the M25 had taken all the traffic off these roads. So as I say, nice and peaceful as we're riding along now, although that does have something to do with the time of day. I was out rather early for this one just to avoid the traffic, and it was just before one of the club rides, so I needed to be back for the start of the club ride. So here we approach Ivor Heath, and this is the roundabout I was mentioning, the 5 Points roundabout, or the Crooked Billet roundabout, depending on what you call it. And as I say, if you go straight on, you join the Slough Road, which takes you to Uxbridge. We're going left though, into Pinewood Road, which, as you might expect, that takes you to Pinewood Studios, home of all those big blockbuster movies, and a lot of Hollywood movies, American movies, are made there. They might kind of look and feel American by the time you watch them, but it is a truly international studios, major studios in the UK. And in fact, Pinewood has expanded. It has studios in other territories these days, so it's built on the name, it's a bit of a brand. And this particular studios, which has been here since, I don't know when it's been here since, but probably the 1940s I would guess, has made so many big movies. And it's expanded of late, so it's now both sides of the road, where it used to be just on the left, as we shall see shortly. And interestingly, for the first time, I noticed this cycle path on the left, which I'm clearly not riding on, somewhat caught out as I wasn't expecting it. That's quite new and has been put there, I think, to enable people to cycle all the way up to the studios. And it was interesting when they first built the second phase of it across the road on the right, they built in a cycle path which was very, very short, and I kind of wondered why, and what was the reason for such a short cycle path. And clearly now I have the answer, because they've extended it all the way along the road to the 5 Points roundabout, so you can cycle all the way from Ivor Heath up to Pinewood Studios these days, and I'm sure plenty of workers will do that. Not today, it's a Sunday. It's not to say nothing happens in the studios on a Sunday, I can tell you. A lot of TV programmes are actually filmed and recorded there too, so don't underestimate how much goes on at the weekend, because those that need studio audiences, particularly those sort of quiz shows with a couple of comedians in the panel, and they will get studio audiences for those to can the laughter, and quite a lot of that is at weekends, where people can of course drive to the studios. And I have to say, on the couple of occasions where I have been to recordings, largely because someone's got some tickets and needs to use them, it's quite interesting how the warm-up comedians before the shows quite often interact with the crowd and ask them where they're from, and the distances people travel to come and watch a TV show being recorded are quite amazing. It surprises me. I live reasonably locally, so it was, if somebody says, I've got a ticket, I need to use it, will you come with me? Yeah, alright then. But some people, obviously, this is quite a big occasion to come and see their favourite TV show being recorded. I have to say that each time I have been, although it wasn't my choice, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not a bad little experience to come along and watch the shows being recorded here. So, here we are. This is Pinewood Studios, and just now on your left, you'll see the beamed building. Now that was the old-fashioned main entrance to the studios. That's all bolted up now, and it's now where the buses turn around, and there's a free bus to Uxbridge, so you can get off the end of the tube and get the Pinewood bus here. So it's all catered for the workers to get here, and they built this new entrance here just on the left, so that's now the entrance to Pinewood Studios, as you can see. You can't quite see on the camera there, but the very big stage on the left is the 007 stage, built for one of the big Bond movies quite a few years ago, but it is a huge stage. And the new bits of the studio are, and this is where they built the cycle path. I'm just going to say, up this roundabout now, you see a little bit of cycle path, and I wonder what it was there for. So as I say, you can see the big stage on the left there, that's the Bond stage. On the right is where all the new buildings are, and it's quite extensive to the right. And as we go past these white gates, there's sort of fields there where they build sets to film movies. I mean, I've seen some fantastic sets down there over the years. Certainly as a young boy, I can remember the big ones, I suppose, were Thunderball, where they built a volcano. It didn't look like a volcano from the outside because it's where they filmed it inside the Bond movie. Was it Thunderball? No, one of those anyway. I can't remember. You only lived twice, maybe. It's probably later than Thunderball, actually. So what else have we got? The Chitty Chitty Bang Bang Castle, I remember there. When I think made Wonder Woman, they built a whole American town on there, and I remember with some friends who worked at the studios, we actually drove around the set. It was that big, and it was like driving around the town. We got told off by security, of course, but hey, you know, when you're when you're young, it's part of the thrill, isn't it? So now we're going round the back of the studios, and this is again the other side of Black Park now. So the trees on your left are sort of the entrances, and you can walk through to Black Park, and you can see just out the back of the studios they can come and film here. And you will later in the day, you'll see a lot of cars parked along the side of the road here, people walking in the into Black Park. But this side of it is kind of less accessible than where we saw the car park on the other side. So you see all this space here that will be packed with cars a little bit later. As I say, this was quite early in the morning because I went out before one of our club rides as we go past the Bridgetine Convent. And I know, I don't know if they do now, but I think the Bridgetine Convent used to survive on making the wine for communions and selling it to churches, including the Anglican churches, which I always thought was quite interesting. So now we're on the road towards Fulmer, and as I say, we are circling Black Park, so you will understand why the course is the Black Park course, because it basically rings it and circuits it. Now, you remember just after the start and where the finish was, I said there's a road on the left that we're going to go up. That road rejoins this road shortly. So what will happen is that the duplicated bit we're about to start seeing for the first time on this lap. Now this video will go around it twice, and it'd be interesting to see whether I can come up with anything interesting to say on the second half of it, but there we are. It's you will notice when we were on the dual carriageway there was a very slight incline. What's going to happen when we get to the end of this road? So this is where we're going to come out when we do the second lap, and then join this road and continue where we're on now. So this is the duplicated section now as the camera bounces around on the potholes. None of that on Wahoo RGT. Not only do we smooth the GPX file, we smooth all the roads for you. So in fact we smooth out the gradients for you as well, so it's the racing should be sort of fairly slick and fast, and we do fine tune the tracks just to make sure that they are. So remember, this is an ITT, and if you are racing on Wahoo RGT, we've taken away the draft. We tend to put everybody out at 5-second intervals, which means yes, you might catch the rider in front, but it doesn't really matter because the draft is switched off. But you couldn't do that in a real life time trial, because obviously 5-second gaps, everybody be catching everybody and getting a draft advantage, even if it's only for a second or so. But you know, it's one of the advantages. We can set everybody off at 5 seconds without fear of the drafting coming in, because we've flicked the switch and it doesn't work. So as I say, smooth roads and no drafting, it's absolutely perfect. You can get a good effort out on these RGT Wahoo time trials. And I think it's a real test as well. I mean, they call it the race of truth, don't they? And I think it's sort of largely true in terms of how much strength you've got when you're riding solo and not getting the benefit of the draft. But you might argue that part of the skill of racing is understanding how to use the draft, how to sit in the pack and not do a maximum effort. You know, teams taking it on the front in, you know, pro races and all the rest of it. This is part of the skill of racing, and of course you don't I don't think it's quite the same in a time trial, because, you know, it's brute strength. But I think there's a place for both. I'm glad that the Grand Tours incorporate time trials prologues within them, so the people who can actually solo get some sort of advantage, even if it is only the odd stage. We always throw one into our West London VR series just for that reason, and we think that if somebody is winning a lot of races by sitting in the bunch and they're a good sprinter, this sort of kind of levels it out for the other people. Now we turn left, and this is on the road from Slough to Gerrards Cross via Fulmer. So Fulmer is just on our right, if you know the area. We're now heading towards Slough, and very shortly we shall turn left and we'll be right on the start line. So this is the duplicated bit part 2, and we'll go past the start line, and as I say, 3 sides of the duplicated bit we'll have done already, and it's only that link road where we turn left just after the finish line that is brand spanking new in lap 2. That rhymes. I'll try not to make too much of that, and don't expect any more rhymes during the rest of this commentary. We head into Wexham, which people do like to pronounce Wrexham, but I assure you Wrexham is in North Wales. Wexham is just outside Slough, and I suppose there's not a lot at Wexham. I say that, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to the people who live here, but it's not one of those places that kind of has a focal village centre, and it also gets a little bit confused because there's parts of Slough that are called Wexham Park, which is not quite the same place, but you know, you associate Wexham Park with Slough, so it's this part is in South Buckinghamshire, whereas Slough is in Berkshire, so it's not quite the same. But you'll see actually the people of Wexham tend to have quite large houses, as you can see from the one on the left, and there's a few of those houses or plots of land that have been converted into various institutions and whatnot. So it's a well-heeled place, shall we say, even if it does lack the sort of focal point of the village pub and the obvious centre. I say it lacks the focal point of the village pub. Of course, the pub in Wexham is exactly where this race starts, and as I say, if you did one in real life, you would actually go to the pub, sign on, get your numbers and whatnot before you roll over to where we started. So we're getting ever closer to that pub, and just before we turn left, you might just catch it just in front of us on the right, if you look carefully, just before the left turn that we're about to do. The left turn takes us right to where all the objets d'art, the lighted mushrooms, were on sale outside somebody's house. So if you get past those, you've missed the pub already. So here we go. This is the left-hand turn. You can't quite see the pub, but it's just at the end of those hedges on your right. So we go past the objet d'art again. We've seen all that. So this is the third bit that's duplicated, shall we say. So we're going around this for the second time. The other 2 sides of this square we've just done. So the 2 sides we've just done will be repeated shortly, and the new bit is of course up Black Park Road, which is the left-hand turn just after the finishing line. So I think to a certain extent, although it's reasonably flat, what you've got is a very gentle descent down to that turn we've just done, and as we turn left up Black Park Road, it will replicate that gentle ascent that we saw on the dual carriageway earlier. So if you remember, we turned onto that dual carriageway, it's got very gentle ascent, it's not slow, it's not going to sort of really mess up your time, but it might take a second or 2 off just because you lose a couple of kph. The same's going to happen on this section. It's very gently uphill. I mean, it doesn't even look uphill, but it is. I certainly, when I ride it in real life, I look at it and think it's flat, but my legs are telling me that I'm putting a bit of extra effort in because it's not quite flat. So bear that in mind. So we'll go past the finishing line in a moment. We'll take that left, and as I say, gently inclines. We'll get to the top. Then we rejoin the two sides that get replicated, and as we replicate those, they'll be flat along to the left-hand turn on the Slough Yards crossroad near Fulmer, and that is gently downhill to where that pub turn is. So, as I say, there's kind of two areas where there's sort of gentle ascents and two areas where there's very gentle descents. But most importantly, if you think about it, that last descent towards the pub and then this section on the final lap is downhill and then flat along here. So whatever you've got left, you need to put it into your pedalling on the last section, because there's nothing to save it for in terms of hills, and you might as well get a decent time out of the last section. As I say, I don't think either of the inclines are going to really seriously hurt your time, but nevertheless, it can take its toll, can't it? A nice little 1% gradient just takes the edge off that speed you were doing along this flat section, and that's what can happen. Nearly at the turn, and it's just coming up now. So here we are, and the finishing line, we just crossed the finishing line there, and now we go back on. So this is the new bit of road that we haven't done yet, and this cuts across, so it means lap 2 is a shorter lap than lap 1 effectively. As I say, I mean, I can't, maybe you can tell, but this has got a gentle incline. It kind of looks flat, but it's very slightly uphill. It's one of those roads that I tended not to notice it was uphill till I was coming home after a long ride one day when your legs are tired, and suddenly it felt harder than it should, and it dawned on me that actually this road isn't flat at all, is it? It's slightly uphill. When we get to the end of this road, we're going to do that left and then left again. So we've got 1, 2, 3 left turns back up to the finishing line. So this is the early stages of lap 2. We're probably about halfway round lap 2. Lap 2 is, how should we say, it's more than one small loop, because you duplicate the bit up to the start of this road. In fact, so you'll that first bit after the Objet d'Art up to the finishing line, you actually do 3 times. But anyway, who's counting? It'll all look the same on the Wahoo RGT stock scenery, so let's not worry about that too much. And quite interesting that there's the amount of brown leaves on the floor there. You might think this was filmed in autumn. It was actually filmed in summer, and I think the reason for the brown leaves is not so much that it's turning autumn early. I think it might be to do with the fact that we haven't had a lot of rain in the area, and it's been very hot, and I wonder if some of those leaves have got parched and died, and giving it a autumnal feel when it wasn't actually the autumn. Nevertheless, it's a windy day as well, so that's another thing. You can see all the leaves on the road there, so it's been quite windy, and hence probably more leaves blown to the ground than would normally happen given the drought we've had. There was the promise of rain, but we only got a couple of specks during this ride, so you won't look like a rainy day. So not far to go now up to the next left-hand turn. Then we've got another 3 sides. This will be effectively, to all intents and purposes, this is side 1 of a square, this new road, and the other 3 sides we have done before. You can see the car crossing the road at the top there. That's where the left turn is, the giveaway sign coming up there, warning us of the main road. This is the road that we were on previously that went up from Pinewood Studios up to Fulmer. Again, this is going to be dead flat, so you probably finished your climbing more or less at this point, if you can call it climbing. It's, the gentle ascent is finished now. It's flat along this road, and then very gently downhill to the pub, and then left and flat again. So nothing difficult to come, and as I say, you can put a lot of effort into this last section now, knowing that there's nothing too testing is going to hurt your legs if they're burning already, and you might as well just get to the stage where you collapse off the bike at the end and spend about 5 minutes getting your breath back. And it's I don't know if any of you do this on Discord with any friends, and it's an individual time trial, so there's probably not really any need to, but it's quite interesting when somebody sort of says something to you on Discord and you're just absolutely gasping for breath and can't answer. But you should be like that at the end of an ITT. If you're still breathing at normal rate, there's something wrong. You haven't tried hard enough. As I say, this is going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see that some of the top riders who are very, very canny at being in the group and making the most of the group and winning sprint finishes and things like that might not like the time trial quite as much, and it probably doesn't suit the people going for GC as much as it does some of the people who get frustrated not being able to win the sprint. We look forward to this. It's a great way to shake the race up, and we like to put them sort of just after the middle of the series, just when it's looking like certain people are going to win it, and then you put this in just to mix it all up again and set the record straight and give everybody else a chance. So as I say, it's by design. We never choose a hilly one, and it's hard to pick a hilly one anyway, because if we're going to use official British time trial courses, they are generally flat unless they're classified as a hill climb, which is a slightly different format. It generally is a hill climb as opposed to a lumpy ride. So coming up to the end of this road, here's the left turn just past the cricket and sports ground on our left. I think they play football there as well. I mean, it's a Sunday morning, so I should imagine an hour or two from now, both sides of the road here will just be packed with dads' cars as they take the sons to go and play for their Sunday morning football team, and the dads stand on the touchline getting rather animated and swearing at the referee and all sorts, and shouting at their kids as if their kids are professional footballers, which obviously they're not. I don't know if that actually happens on that ground, but there are some sports fields behind my house, and it's quite entertaining listening to the dads shouting from the sidelines. They make far more noise than the young lads actually playing the games. So it's I'm sure it's a universal thing, and it happens there too. So here we are, we're back on the road from Slough to Gerrards Cross. We're heading away from Formwood towards Slough, as I said on the last lap, and we're going down towards the pub that you can't see. Left turn past the Objet d'Art, and then that is the sprint to the finish. Now, how at what point you sort of kind of give it that last burst is going to really depend on you and how much energy you've got left. For that, we can't help you much with that. I think if you start really giving it some from the turn where the pub is, I think that's probably a little bit far out. So probably sort of maybe 100 to 200 meters after that is where you should really sort of kind of put that last burst in. But as I say, we're all different, and I can't predict how much energy you'll have, how much is in your legs or whatever, so that's a decision for you. But I think on the first lap, I think you ought to really measure that left-hand turn to the finishing line, and the way to do that is on lap 2 is you measure it from the pub left-hand turn to the left-hand turn onto the new road. That is your finishing straight, if you like, and you can sort of gauge what distance it is in comparison to how energetic you feel. And as I say, that's a decision to be made on the night. Part of the reason for watching these, of course, is we give you little tips, and like I say, I think you work out your strategy for the finishing section and how much you burn yourself out based on recceing it in lap at the beginning of what we might call lap 2, if you like. So when we've done that first big lap and you turn left at the pub, the next section is going to be finishing straight. So learn it and gauge it when you come back. So here we are, this is the stretch I'm talking about. The pub is just at the end of those bushes on the right, and you can't see it again. We turn left past the Objet d'Art. This is your finishing straight. So how much have you got left? How much can you sustain of full out effort between here and the finishing line. Now you might be of the philosophy that you might as well burn yourself out, and if you do burn yourself out with 50 metres to go, then so be it. You still got the best out of yourself, and it's better to know that you had nothing left at the end than you had a little bit left at the end and could have done better. Who knows? Glasses are half full, half empty, and you can view things from different angles and have completely different views about the same subject. So there's no right answer. This is going to be down to you. But this is the bit where I think you've got to work out what it looks like, how it feels. It's flat. It's reasonably straight. I mean, it's not totally straight, but it's not as if there's a tight bend or anything that's going to catch you out. I mean, the tightest bend is just after the finishing line here when you're doing what we call lap 2, when you go up the new road, the shortcut across the loop. That's the tightest bend of the race, so it's there's nothing now going to impede your efforts other than what you've got left in the tank. So this is the bit to watch and understand. This is the third time you'll have done this stretch as well. So again, if you are doing the race, if you look on the right hand side of your screen, it's got a map of the course. Work out the 3 times you're going down this and have a look at it so that you're well aware of what you've got in the tank and what's coming up to make a judgment at this point. So we're getting not far now, as you'll probably remember from the 2 times we did this little stretch of road earlier, and I'd say we're going to finish just before the left hand turn into the cut across in lap 2, which again you've seen twice already, so you'll know when it's coming up this time, won't you, if you've been paying attention? So he sounds like a school teacher. He's coming up any second now, so beware. We wish you luck in your efforts on the time trial. We have used different courses before, so this is the second time it's been in the series, but the first time was 2.5 years ago, so a lot of you won't remember this one. But good luck on the day. It's quite an interesting course, reasonably flat, and you can get some fast speeds.